Hi. So the lesson today is called How Great is Our God, or How Great is Your God? We're going to be looking at a psalm today, a psalm that talks about the greatness of God. And it's a psalm that helps us to pray. So I'm hoping that you have this sheet with you called How Great is Your God? And the psalm, or at least a large chunk of it, is printed out on this sheet. So the first thing, as always, is I suggest that you read this in your own language first. Sometimes reading it in your own language, even if you've got a good grasp of English, sometimes reading it in your own language can help you to see things more clearly. So perhaps just stop the video for a moment and just read Psalm 139, 139, and then verses 1 to 18. Just take your time and then come back to this lesson. So we're going to read it in English. We're going to see what it's teaching us, and we're going to see how we might use it as a way of praying. So here's the first bit that we're going to read together. O Lord, you have examined my heart and know everything about me. You know when I sit down or stand up. You know my thoughts, even when I'm far away. You see me when I travel and when I rest at home. You know everything I do. You know what I am going to say even before I say it, Lord. Now, this psalm was written by King David, and it's quite a remarkable thing to realize, isn't it, that God knows everything about us. He even knows what we're thinking. So there's an opportunity on this sheet to write down some of your own thoughts, and they're just your own thoughts between you and God. So if you want to pause the video every time we meet one of these boxes, please feel free to do that. So the question is, God sees and hears everything. Particularly, he sees and hears everything in our own lives. So how do you feel about that? How do you feel about the fact that God sees everything and he hears everything in your life? I wonder how you feel about that. Maybe just take a moment to think about that and write down your response. So let's now look at the next part. You go before me and follow me. You place your hand of blessing on my head. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too great for me to understand. I can never escape from your presence. I can never escape from your spirit. I can never get away from your presence. If I go up to the heavens, that means the sky, you are there. If I go down to the grave, you are there. If I ride on the wings of the morning, if I dwell in the farthest oceans, even there your hand will guide me, and your strength will support me. This is poetry. This is a beautiful language, I think. And so God is saying, or the psalmist is saying rather, that God is always with him. He's saying he can never escape from God. He doesn't want to, but he's saying that wherever he goes, God is with him. He says, if I go up to the sky, in other words, he imagines himself to perhaps be a bird or an eagle or something. If I'm up there, God is there with me. If I even were to go down to be close to dying, down in the grave, God is there too with him. If I travel a long way, he's saying God is with me. So another opportunity to just pause the video and write down what you think about these words. So it says, God is always with us. Why is that a good thing, do you think? that God is always with us. Well, hopefully you've had a chance to write down what you feel about that. And let's look at the next thing. I could ask the darkness to hide me and the light around me to become night. But even in darkness, I cannot hide from you. To you, talking to God, the night shines as bright as day. Darkness and light are the same to you. So it's saying even if he were in a dark place, even if he were in a dangerous place, that God is still there. God as light is still there with him in the darkness. God is not going to leave him. Then he says this, you made all the delicate inner parts of my body. He's thinking, when I was being formed in my mother's womb, before I was born, he's saying, God, you made me. You made all the amazing things about my body, all the complex things about my body. You made all the delicate inner parts of my body. You knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. So he's looking at the wonders of the human body, isn't he? And now David is writing this thousands of years ago. Even with our modern science and modern technology, we can still look at our bodies and say, wow, that's incredible that God has designed that and made it. We still cannot make robots that can do the things that we can do. And so David is saying, this is amazing, God, that you've made me. Let's keep reading on the next sheet. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion. He's saying, as I was growing in my mother's womb, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. Now, he moves into something really important now. David is saying, look, God, you were with me when I was growing as a baby. Even before I was born, God, you were with me. But he's also looking into the future and he's saying, God, you know the future as well. Every day of my life, looking into the future, is recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before the day has passed. He's saying, God, you know the future. You know my future. That means I don't have to worry about it. I can trust you because you, God, know the future. So here's another opportunity. There's a couple of questions now. So maybe you'd like to pause the video and have a think about how you'd like to answer these questions. So the first one is, God made every part of you. What are the things you like about yourself? Think about how God's made you. What are the things that you like about yourself that you want to say thank you to God for? And then the second question is, this tells us that God has plans for your life. So how do you feel about that? That God has plans for your life. So if you've had a chance to answer those questions, let's read on for the last part. How precious are your thoughts about me, O God? They cannot be numbered. I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand. And when I wake up, you are still with me. So let's read that. There's a few thoughts here. Some of them we've already said, but let's just read these thoughts together. The message of Psalm 139 is that our Father in heaven, God, knows us and is with us. The writer, David, is just reminding himself of that fact. So remember, he said, you know my thoughts. even when I'm far away. You know everything I do. You know what I'm going to say, says David. That is a great place to start. God is so great. He knows everything about me. And then, next paragraph, David then imagines flying like an eagle in the sky, and God would still be with him. Remember, we read, if I go up to the heavens, the sky, you are there. God is so present everywhere that nothing could separate David from his loving care. Even if David were to be completely surrounded by evil, the darkness could never hide him. So even in darkness, we read, I cannot hide from you. God is so great that his guidance and protection for David is always there. No geographical location, no place or evil presence can keep God away. That is the same for us too. And if God created David in the first place, so he talks about that, doesn't he? He says, you knit me together in my mother's womb. Then David can trust God's ability to shape and guard his future. He can trust God for his future. And so we can trust God for our futures too. If we are worried about things today, or we're worried about things in the future, we can trust God about those things. We can trust God to take care of us. So we've said this before. You might want to use this as a psalm to spend time with God. Spend time with God every day if you can, praying, reading the Bible. And this is a good passage of the Bible to use when we spend time with God. So as we've suggested before, take a chunk each day, read it slowly. Try praying the words back to God. Maybe read the words out loud or praying them back to God. Maybe you find yourself wanting to say thank you, God, for some things. Maybe you might find that there are things that you want to pray about as you read these words. But use these to help you have a conversation with God. Well, I hope that was a blessing to you. We're going to do some more studies like this in a future lesson. So God bless you and see you soon.